On election night 2008, in November of 2008, this was probably the single strangest on-air moment for me. This happened after midnight East Coast time. Barack Obama had already won the presidency, and we were here in this studio covering the reaction to the election results around the country. And in the midst of that, with everybody else I work with here at MSNBC, this happened.
I believe we've got some pictures out of San Francisco as well. Some of the celebration pouring out in the Castro district of the city, as it's known. A place near and dear to your heart, Chris Matthews.
To me, certainly me, having written for the papers out there all those years.
That may not all be celebration if it's in the Castro and we haven't got the results of Prop 8 yet. I should be saying, that may not all be celebrating, you guys. Have you heard anything about Prop 8? What was happening in the Castro in San Francisco on election night was a little more complicated than just people cheering for Obama. It was people realizing that on the same night that America voted for its first African-American president, same-sex couples in California had lost their existing civil right to get married. Joining us now from a rally in Los Angeles are the two unlikely allies who brought this case in federal court, attorneys David Boies and Ted Olson. They faced off against each other, of course, in Bush v. Gore in 2000, but they stood on the same side in this case. Gentlemen, congratulations, and thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Mr. Olson, let me start with you. Do you feel like you got everything you were hoping for from Judge Walker's ruling today?
We feel very, very gratified by Judge Walker's ruling. It was a 138-page analysis of all of the evidence in the case on both sides. It thoroughly dismantled the evidence presented by the other side. It analyzed all of the legal issues, the pros and cons from every conceivable standpoint, and came out on the side of the gay and lesbian couples that we represented in every respect. We're very, very grateful.
Mr. Boies, looking ahead to next steps here, obviously the opposition in this case already filed paperwork indicating that they would like to appeal. Candidly, do you think that there are any elements of this ruling that may be difficult to defend on appeal? Judge Walker obviously wrote a very forceful statement of his view of the evidence.
It was a very, very careful and well-written opinion, and it was very well grounded in the facts of the case. We said at the beginning that we would establish three things: that marriage was a fundamental right, that depriving gay and lesbian citizens of the right to marry harmed them and harmed their children, and that depriving gays and lesbians of the right to marry could not help heterosexual marriage at all. The judge pointed out that we were right on all three of those grounds, and that not only were we right, but the defendant's own witnesses had admitted those three propositions during the trial. So I think that one of the things that the judge has done is has made a very, very strong opinion that's very, very difficult to overturn on appeal.
Mr. Olson, there's another gay marriage case that is making its way to the Supreme Court from Massachusetts, where gay marriage is legal, of course. Last month, the U.S. District Court judge ruled that the Defense of Marriage Act, the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, is unconstitutional. What effect do those cases have on one another? What effect do those cases, how do they interact with this case that you've just won today in terms of what happens ultimately at the federal or Supreme Court level?
Well, there are different cases involving different issues, but the common thread in these cases is treating gay and lesbian individuals equally and not discriminating against them, not applying the laws of the United States or the laws of California or any other state in a discriminatory fashion for no purpose against individuals who happen to be gay and lesbian. The judges in the Massachusetts case and the judge today in the California Proposition 8 case went through all of the evidence and could find no justification, no rational basis for the disparate treatment of gays and individuals with respect to marriage. And the Massachusetts judge did pretty much the same thing with the federal Defense of Marriage statute. So the cases resonate with one another. They make a strong collective case for ending discrimination on this basis.
One of the things that is remarkable about this case is the fact that the two of you are arguing it together. Obviously, coming from very different places in terms of your own affiliations with Democratic and Republican parties, your own political views, but you come together on this issue. I wonder, looking ahead to the U.S. Supreme Court, what is considered to be a very conservative John Roberts-led Supreme Court right now, is this the right court to bring up a gay marriage case before? Is the court just too conservative to ever rule in favor of equality in this current incarnation?
I think that one of the messages that Ted and I working together on this case sends is that this is not a Republican or Democratic issue, not a conservative, it's not a liberal issue. It's a human rights, it's a civil rights issue. This was a great victory for gays and lesbians and the children that they raised. But it was also a great victory for all Americans, for anybody who's ever been discriminated against because they are of a different color or of a different sex, different creed, or indeed all Americans who have an interest in equality. And I think that is a common value of all of us, not just conservatives, not just liberals. And I would hope that the Supreme Court, like everybody, would rejoice in this kind of advancement of constitutional and civil rights.
I agree with David. We've got to stop thinking about equality in terms of conservative or liberal. We need to start thinking about the fact that gays and lesbian citizens are our brothers and our sisters. They're entitled to equal places in our society. That should be a conservative value. It is also a liberal value. It is not something that should split us.
Would either one of you gentlemen mind doing me a favor and just turning around to the people behind you and asking them if they're happy with today's ruling?
David will do that.
What do you think about that,
All right, I think that's a fairly good, cross reference there. Good sample there of the population.
Okay.
Well, David Boies and Ted Olson, I know that this is a very big day for you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. Congratulations again, and good luck as this continues forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel.